record on here. All right, but welcome. We're going to talk all about sun care today. So, of course, this will be saved if you're watching the recording. Hello, but if you're live, you can ask questions as we go along. Please feel free to do that. I will try to answer those as best I can. If not, I will definitely get back to you on any question that I don't know. But I'm excited to talk about this topic because sometimes I feel like the sun gets demonized. Not that we can spend all day, every day in the sun and not have repercussions from that, but I do feel like the sun has a lot of benefits. So I want to talk about all the things. So we're going to go through some common questions, some ways that we can be really proactive, and then of course, when we do need sunscreen, we'll definitely talk about which ones might be best. So welcome to today's workshop. So is the sun all bad? Of course, the sun is not all bad, but I do feel like it gets a bad rap. But really, the sun is the main way our body will absorb and convert and correctly use vitamin D, which is super important to our overall health. It's important to our immune system. Vitamin D it's essential for bone health. A lot of times we kind of think about our immune system as the main reason why we need this vitamin D, but there are a lot of other reasons. So one would be healthy bones. Another one would be hormone health. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. Mood, it affects our mood greatly because it affects serotonin levels. It helps make serotonin. And it also really affects our body's circadian rhythm, which is often off. And, people might have a hard time waking up or have a hard time going to sleep. And that really is indicative that our circadian rhythm is off. And so the sun, obviously, it rises in the morning, highs at noonday, and then it goes behind the clouds, goes to sleep at night. So that really helps our body know when to wake up, when to have our most energy, have our best energy, and then when to wind down at night. So that's really important to our overall health as well, of course. But the sun really does have a lot of benefits apart from vitamin D that we hear the most about. I did mention that it makes serotonin, which really serotonin plays a key role in helping to regulate metabolism. It also can really play a part in hunger as well, which is not something maybe that you hear a lot about, but it's also a feel-good hormone. So we hear about serotonin a good bit. I think most people know serotonin is a feel-good hormone, but did you know that the sun, that's why you feel good, maybe when you're at the beach or when you're outside. Nature's just good for us in general, but the sun really does have a lot of benefits when it comes to serotonin. Hey, Monica, good to see you. So melatonin is another thing that the sun kind of helps regulate, and that's why first morning sun is really important to us, to get that sun on our skin or in our eyes, even for just a few minutes, because that will trigger melatonin production that will help you to sleep at night. So that, again, it resets your circadian rhythm, and it also helps to produce that melatonin, which is going to be really important to help you sleep well at night and go to sleep and stay asleep. So just a few facts about the sun, why it's really good. Because I feel like that's again, sometimes we just are a little bit afraid of it to stay out in the sun, but we're going to talk about how you can actually help your body to be more, I guess, maybe resilient to the sun, or maybe not burn as much. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But I do think there's a lot of misconceptions. We think about skincare, we think about the sun, we think about premature aging, but I think with moderate and what I would call safe sun exposure, I think it can be really, really good for us to get adequate sun exposure. We've talked about a few of those reasons, just before now. And then, those things that we think are kind of scary about the sun really aren't an issue if we have that moderate and safe exposure. I think sometimes, though, we forget to ask why. Like, why do we burn so quickly? If you're one that, we all kind of have different skin tones, and some burn more easily than others. But we kind of forget to ask, like, why do I burn so easily, or why am I reacting negatively to the sun? So I wanted to kind of touch on that and how we can help with that, right? We can kind of get down to maybe more the root cause of why, you might tend to burn a little bit easier than others. Of course, not, and I know skin tone, it does play a part in this, but really what your diet is composed of plays a bigger part than you might think. So it brings up the question, how can we protect our skin from the inside out? Research has shown that skin cancer actually does not occur unless there are polyunsaturated fats in the diet, which would be that those are very high in things like vegetable oils, really highly refined oils. They're also found in other like healthier type foods as well, like nuts and seeds are a big one that are very high in, they're often called PUFAs, polyunsaturated fats. And so you burn significantly less when you cut some of these things out of your diet. Because, you know, when you think about an oil that has been highly processed, it's very sensitive to heat. And of course, sun is heat. So it's just going to make that oil create more free radicals in your body, which then it speeds up a lot of things. It feeds inflammation. It makes your skin burn more easily. Of course, that can lead, the inflammation can lead to a lot of different things on its own, but that in itself just makes you susceptible to burn more easily. They actually did a study on some rabbits, cute little rabbits. They fed one group of rabbits coconut oil, which is high in saturated fats, and one group corn oil, which is high in PUFAs or polyunsaturated fats. And the ones that were fed coconut oil, they didn't show any signs of damage from the sun, burning, aging, anything like that. The ones that were fed corn oil, they got wrinkles, they burn faster. So that was just a neat little study I wanted to just share with you because I think these things do matter. And really over time, I've definitely seen it in my own health. Now I have olive skin, so I don't burn quite as easily as maybe somebody with fairer skin, but I have noticed that I can go longer in the sun without burning than I used to. So it's just little things like that, I think, that make a difference over time. And I think as we get older, we start thinking about taking better care of our skin, and we're not like baking in the sun all the time, so I think there's a fine line with how much unprotected sun time that we need versus how much, when do we put on sunscreen? That's kind of a question that we might ask. But I want to kind of look a little bit more into how can we, dig more into how can we protect ourselves from the inside out before I move on to more of that sunscreen conversation. But so I mentioned PUFAs. I mentioned that they are very delicate to heat and that sun is heat. That's kind of why a diet high in these oils, which unfortunately, if you think about eating out, you're pretty much going to consume these in some way, shape, or form. I mean, of course, if you eat fried foods, if they're cooked in oil, they're most likely cooked in one of these oils. So it's not like you can necessarily avoid them. And sure, I eat fried foods out. I just try not to do it all the time, and I'm just mindful of it. But definitely one of the things that you could do would just be to control what you bring in at your home. So if you're cooking in some of these oils, then you could just lessen that. Maybe you cook with butter, which is a saturated fat, or coconut oil. Like, who doesn't love butter? Like, butter makes everything better. So that might be one switch that you can make, which might sound counterintuitive, but butter is actually really good for you. Of course, I wouldn't advise eating lots of sticks a day, but everything in moderation. But it's just a highly processed version of these oils that are really inflammatory to our body. So saturated fats are a lot more stable in the heat, and our body, even without being in the sun, it's 98 degrees typically. And so you just think about that heated environment that the oils are going into. That's just something that plays a part in why the saturated fats are a little bit better for our body. That's one way, but also they contain a lot of key vitamins to just making our body run properly. And so these fats can really be protective to our skin. So saturated fats typically contain vitamins A, D, and K in a really great ratio. Not too much of one, not too little of other. They really have a great ratio of these vitamins, like nature does. Nature knows best, right? God created these foods perfectly. So if you consume more of these vitamin-rich fats, these saturated fats, they really can significantly decrease your risk of the skin cancer, because again, it just helps your body to be more resilient in the sun and get the benefits of the sun without burning. So the vitamins A and D are typically only found in animal sources. And so egg yolks, grass-fed butter, coconut oil, even tallow and lard, which is rendered pork fat and beef fat, and then oysters. So just a few that I wanted to mention. Obviously, most people eat eggs. Butter is something that we can easily have accessibility to, coconut oil. So just trying to think about maybe swapping some of those over. But also polyphenol-rich foods have a good bit of vitamin C, which is also very protective to the sun. So colorful vegetables are always a great addition. But I think just to sum up this kind of part of the conversation, the more of the story is you don't need to sit outside by the pool all day with no sunscreen on and just in the sun baking. You really only need about 20 minutes of midday sun to get a good dose of vitamin D, which, we mentioned is a great, so the sun is the best way really to get vitamin D. So you just kind of have to know your own threshold. Most of the time, 20 minutes, though, is going to be a good threshold for most people. So I think also just to let you know, if you're like, well, I burn after 5 minutes, maybe make some of these changes and just try to see if you can build up over time. Obviously, at the beginning of the summer, you probably burn quicker than at the end of the summer because you have more of like a base built up. So just keep that in mind. Of course, we're not trying to get anybody burned here, but just trying to give some information. But just also keep in mind, when you have on sunscreen, you are not absorbing any vitamin D. So, I'm just thinking about myself, like sometimes I put on sunscreen just because it's easier. Say I'm going to be out at the beach all day, I just put it on before I go out because I'm putting it on my kids or whatnot. I'm going to think about these things and maybe get a little bit more sun time without sunscreen on so that I can make sure I get the benefits of the vitamin D. So these are just things I want you to think about because you really don't get any of that benefit with any type of sunscreen on. So of course, this is going to beg the question, like what sunscreens are best. So I wanted to look at some different types of sunscreens and talk a little bit about that. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer, but I'm not a sunscreen expert. So just wanted to preface that. Okay, so there really are only two types of sunscreens. There's chemical and mineral, and they work differently. Chemical sunscreens absorb UV rays. They absorb the rays. Mineral reflect the rays, the UV rays. So they just work. They have different methods of action in that way. The chemical sunscreens also require about 20 minutes to work. And of course, the name would lead you to believe they do have chemicals in them. So that's just something that we kind of probably all grew up on these types of sunscreens, but well, maybe not. I think probably at first sunscreen was mineral, and then it kind of is maybe chemicals were just easier to apply, right? We had the sprays and all of that. So I'm not sure when it evolved, but for a long time, I think it was mostly chemical. But I've seen a lot more mineral-based sunscreens in the last few years. And again, they reflect the UV rays. They don't absorb them like the chemical. And then mineral sunscreens provide a physical barrier. So you might think about when that might bring to mind, like somebody looking white at the beach if they have one of these types of sunscreens on. But mineral sunscreens, they have come a long way, I feel. And these are more of the zinc-based sunscreens that you might be more familiar with. But I think in general, there are a few ingredients that you just want to try to stay away from when you think about picking a safe sunscreen. Oxybenzone is an active ingredient that you want to stay away from. It's been found to have carcinogenic effects and just negative effects, I would say, on your health. Especially if you think about lathering it all over your skin, and your skin is the largest organ that you have, and so it's going to get absorbed in your bloodstream. And we're just trying to decrease as many toxins as we can. Phthalates and parabens are also something that you've probably heard of before that you might want to stay away from, and just in general, but definitely in sunscreens as well. And so I would say that it's probably, if you had to pick between the two, of course, mineral sunscreens, no matter what brand, would probably be better than chemical. So brands, what brands are best? So I feel like this is like the great hunt, right? We're always trying to find the best sunscreen. Sometimes it's what's available to me locally if I haven't forethought to order it in because I live in a small town. But I would say some of the brands that I've used in the past would be brands like Badger. Alba is pretty regularly available, like in Kroger or Publix or things like that. Kiss My Face is another one, and I'm sure there are several other ones, but it's kind of always been a struggle to find a sunscreen that I'm in love with. And so I was extra excited when doTERRA, which is a company I already have used for over, oh yes, about 10 years now, I guess 9.5. I've used so many of their products. I know that they always keep quality in mind. And so that's just a company that I trust. I know that you have other companies that you trust, and this is one that I very greatly trust. And so when they came out with sunscreen, I was like, it's hands down going to be like my new choice, right? But I wanted to go through a little bit of what they have put together in this line, because it's not available quite yet, but you don't have to wait much longer. It's going to be available Friday. So really excited about that. And I want to share a little bit about why it's different. And I wish I would have ordered a little pack, and I thought it was going to be here so I could show you, but it wasn't quite here yet. You know how that shipping is. So I think what's really interesting with this sunscreen that they have come up with, and there's several different things that are going to be in this line, different application types, but we think about sunscreen being protective, but this sunscreen is protective and restorative. So it actually helps to nourish your skin while it's protecting you. And I mentioned, of course, you want to get some of that unprotected time, but you're going to need to use sunscreen if you're out for a prolonged period of time, especially thinking about going to the beach for a week. You're not going to not use sunscreen the entire week. So I think that using a sunscreen that can be protective and help to decrease some of the skin damage that can come with exposed sun time for a long period of time, but also just nourishing to your skin, because sometimes sunscreen can really leave your skin feeling dry and flaky and itchy. It just kind of depends on the type, but that's what I have noticed in the past. So I'm really excited about the different ingredients that they put in this sunscreen line. Not only what they've left out, some of those unsavory ingredients that can cause some negative effects over time, like the toxicity level, they've put some things in that are very nourishing to the skin. So I want to kind of go over some of those. They have included shea butter and cocoa butter, which are very nourishing to the skin. I've had those in some other, of course, products and things from doTERRA and other companies. And so I'm really excited that this is in a sunscreen. They've put different oils like raspberry oil, avocado oil, jojoba oil to make sure that it's nourishing and not super drying, because some of the sunscreens that I've tried are very drying to my skin. And so you just have to, it's just kind of something, you just kind of deal with it because you need to use a sunscreen. But I'm really excited that these are going to be, it's going to be nourishing to my skin, because as you get older, you just pay more attention to that. So they've also included vitamin E, which a lot of these that I'm mentioning have sun protecting benefits to them, but they're also very nourishing to your skin. So of course, it's not a surprise that they chose the ingredients very carefully. And so they can do dual things, right? And of course, they put essential oils in here as well. So they have lemongrass, there's ylang ylang, there's magnolia, there's other oils that have SPF quality, because I have actually made my own sunscreen using essential oils. You have to apply it often because it doesn't have quite as high an SPF. But there are several oils, like helichrysum is in there as well, that have SPF properties to them. So, of course, they included these essential oils with them. And I think one thing that I've seen more on sunscreen brands in the last few years is just that there's an environmentally conscious part of this too. Vegan friendly, reef safe, cruelty free, just different things like that. It's sad that we have to put those things on there, I think, but it's just the world that we live in, I guess. So I love that this is environmentally friendly. It's clean and green, and it's really great for all skin types. Sometimes you'll see that sunscreens have a safe, like a sensitive skin formula or different formulas like that. These products are going to be great for all skin types. So I put some of this information because I didn't want to just go through every single bit of it on this workshop. Just wanted to give you sort of an overview. I put it all into, well, actually one of my friends did, and she's really great and gracious to share with everyone. But I'm going to be providing that to you if you'd like to look at specific ingredients, because I know like sometimes you just want to you want to see, yeah, people are extra picky about ingredients, which I totally understand. So I'm going to have an ebook that'll have all of that included in there for you. And I'm going to send that to anybody that registered for the workshop. And then I'll also put it on Instagram on my stories as well. But I wanted to just mention everything that will be in this line that will be available on Friday. Let me pull up this ebook. It's actually in the ebook, so if you want to look at all the products, you can. But there is a face and body stick that goes on really well. I actually tried out some of these products at a recent conference that I went to in April. But there's a face and body stick, there's a face and body lotion that comes in a little tube, and then there's a body spray as well. So you kind of get to pick. You can get them all, you can get one or two, but I love the stick. Something about using a stick on your face is so much easier than trying to rub it in, especially on kids. So really excited about that. So all three of those products will be available on Friday. If you're a customer, you can log in and get them in your account. If you're not, get with whoever has been sharing with you, and they'd be happy to help you get those. There is one more product that won't be available until August, and that is an after sun spray. So if you're like me, you've probably been using lavender in some lotion as your like after sun lotion for years now. If you haven't, you definitely got to try it until maybe you get your hands on this product. But lavender is a key ingredient in this spray, and I've been using it for years. It is a lifesaver for sunburn. If you get too much sun, just put a few drops of lavender with whatever lotion or whatnot that you have and just put it on the area. And I actually forgot to put it on one of my arms one year, and like one of them the next day was completely fine and one was still burnt. So I did a little experiment for you. It really works. So that is a little bit of information on sun care for you today. I'm happy to answer questions that might have come up during the workshop, but I wanted to keep it short, sweet, to the point, but also just help you to realize it doesn't have to be all about putting sunscreen on all the time. It really shouldn't be. It should be a mixture of how can we take care of ourselves so we don't burn and we can get as easy and we can get all the benefits from the sun, but also if we're going to be exposed for longer periods of time to get the benefit of not using a toxic sunscreen too. So I hope this has been helpful to you all. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.